What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the NFL. We got the Week 10 recap. To say the least, it's going to be fun. A lot of good games. We got 12 to do. Either way, like and subscribe. Hope you enjoy. We got Monday Night Football, some other big games. Either way, like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed.
Brady to Fournette. And he's got the first down. Got dragged by Jamin Davis for a moment, but it was past the line to gain. And Chase Young is slow to get up behind the play.
You're right back to MetLife Stadium. That's a Tennessee touchdown. A 1-yard plunge. Fifth rush.
Taylor. The 2. Still going. Moving those legs. Reaching over. He's in. What an effort.
Gonna have to pitch it. Benson has it. What he needs. Well, you're gonna end the game. And that's it.
Field off his back foot. Nearly picked off. He was trying to hit Johnson on the play. And Matt Judon with the hit on Mayfield. He is slow to get up.
And he's been battling through so many different things. Torn labrum, broken humerus in his left shoulder, foot injury that you detailed at the top of the show. And here's Judon. Ball's getting rid of. Timing's good.
Into the red zone 5 times and only came away with 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal. Of course, you could say that Green Bay should.
Escapes. Goes to the end zone. It's Williams there, and he makes the grab. Oh my goodness. Darrell Williams. First down.
You had a bad
to our offense. Play action from White. Delivers that is picked. Intercepted by Wallace. But so boy, these last 2 weeks have been a nightmare. And that is going to continue. Poyer.
Okay, guys, we got the Week 10 recap. 12 games to do. We're going to start right now. First game we're going to do is the Bills versus Jets. Pretty simple. Bills are a better team. Yeah, they blew them out 45-17. Of course, they just fought at 2-7. They're pretty banged up. Their quarterback issue is a mess. Bills go to 6-3. They have been pretty inconsistent this year, but they have some really good things to think about. Surprisingly, their offense hasn't been great this season. It's been their defense. Either way, for the Bills offense, I said run the ball and then throw the ball to the receivers on 3rd down. They threw it like basically every play to the receivers on 3rd down. They ran the ball basically perfectly. Well, Zach Moss had a couple of bad carries, but you look at the running game, it's pretty good. Their offense, Josh Allen, 21 of 28, 366 yards, 2 touchdowns pick. The pick was a deep ball that was way overthrown, but he threw some really good passes. Stephon Diggs had some big catches. He had a really best game of the season by far. Gabriel Davis had a big game. Matt Breida had 2 touchdowns, 2 total touchdowns. They had 4 touchdowns on the ground though, which is pretty good. Of course, Josh Allen had a really good game. I'll give them a plus. They scored a lot of points. They scored 45, which it's hard to get a minus when you score 45. But for the Bills defense, they played phenomenal. That was awesome. They forced 4 picks, 4 turnovers, all interceptions. They only got a sack, but they played really good, and yeah, I have to give them a plus. So yeah, and they really stopped the run too, so I really liked it. Then meanwhile for the Jets, yeah, Bills defense is best in the NFL. Meanwhile, Joe Flacco, he was pretty good when he came in. Mike White got benched after he threw a bad interception. They were moving down the ball downfield, but once they got past the 50-yard line, Mike White stunk it up. He threw 4 interceptions, 251 yards, 24-44. He was pretty awful. He had some nice throws, but overall he was pretty awful. They get a minus. Elijah Moore didn't do anything. Literally did nothing. Well, 344, but he got a lot of targets and he wasn't great. Jets defense, I wouldn't really say it was their fault. They really had no talent, but they did get 2 sacks. They did get a pick, but other than that, it was pretty bad. They get a minus. They gave them 45 points. You're not going to win games when you do that. Only 2 picks they had short fields against. Two drives, and they gave a field goal and a touchdown. I can't really say anything else. They played pretty bad. So next game we're going to do, it was actually the biggest upset of the week by far. Washington versus the Bucs. Washington at home came away with this thing 29-19. Bucs, they are 6-3, but they fall for their second straight time in the last 3 weeks. So yeah, they came off a little flat after a bye. Washington though is 3-6, but they lose their best player in Chase Young, so that is bad too. Either way, for the Bucs offense, I said run the ball, play action to anyone open. Tom can't he did turn over the ball. 2 picks. He wasn't very good. 23 of 34, 220, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Leonard Fournette, they actually only ran the ball 13 times, which you can't really do to win a game. Mike Evans had a big 40-yard touchdown. Chris Godwin had a pretty good game. Leonard Fournette was not getting any big catches. Jalen Durden had a big catch on the first drive of the game. And Cameron Brate had a touchdown. Their offense gets a minus. The defense wasn't bad. It was actually pretty good, but their offense just made a lot of mistakes. The offensive line wasn't good. They weren't awful. It's just they weren't great. That's what I meant to say. They weren't bad. They just weren't great. The defense though, they were actually awesome. They had 5 sacks, but they did give up a good amount of points. I'll give them an underscore. They should not have given up 29 points, but they actually didn't play that bad. They did give up a lot of yardage, but other than that, I think they played good. Taylor Heineke, though, had a really good game, 26 of 32, 256, and a touchdown. I call that a really good game. Antonio Gibson, they didn't run the ball efficiently, but in the red zone, he was elite. He really struggled getting consistent on the ground. They actually ran the ball. It wasn't great. But Taylor Heineke had one of the best games for him of the season. Terry McLaurin had some big catches. DeAndre Carter had 1 big catch to seal the game. Their offense, yeah, they didn't run the ball efficiently. I will give them an underscore. I can't give them a plus. They had some pretty short fields. They weren't awesome, but they did their job. They scored enough points. I'd say they have a good game. Antonio Gibson got to be more efficient, and then maybe I'll give you a plus. They weren't perfect, but the defense though, they got 2 picks. They played awesome. They get a plus. It was a mix of everything why they won the game, but I gotta admit, I'll give them their credit too. They played awesome. Best game of the season probably for them. Okay. Next game, Falcons at Cowboys. Pretty simple. This game was the worst game of the week. The Cowboys just said we're a better team. They bounced back. Matt Ryan was awful. 9 of 21, 116 yards, 2 interceptions. Josh Rosen showed, yeah, I'm still a bust. He was pretty bad. 1 for 6, 14 yards, interception. The pick was at the end of the game, and they were still, like, the Dallas fans, I bet everything was with them. Josh Rosen was awful. It was just bad. They couldn't do anything. Cordell Patterson got 4 carries. I don't know what that was about. Mike Davis got the same amount of carries. Their offense was just putrid. They scored 3 points. They didn't do anything well. They were off the field really quick. They didn't run the ball at all. Wayne Gallman got some carries. I don't know why Cordell Patterson didn't get any carries. They let him have 1 catch, and they really didn't let him do anything else for Cordell Patterson. Kyle Pitts, they doubled the whole game. Whole game, they doubled him. He had some big catches, but they doubled him the whole game. Their defense, though, was absolutely awful. Their defense was terrible. They didn't do anything. Yeah, they did stop the run, but that was probably about it. Like, Zeke didn't run the ball great. I'll be honest. Tony Pollard, he ran the ball. They didn't really run the ball that efficiently, but it didn't matter because Dak had a bounce back week. 24 of 31, 296, 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb had a good game. 6 for 94, 2 touchdowns. I'd say they had a pretty good game. Their offense gets a plus. They put up 43. Their defense, though, is definitely the reason they won the game. Their offense was good, too, but they had 3 picks and 2 sacks. So had some big defensive plays. Trayvon Diggs had a couple big plays. They get a plus. Yeah, so that was just domination. Okay, honestly, the Titans are the hottest team in the NFL if you haven't realized by now, but they might be the best team in the NFL, too. This was not very impressive. The Saints, they hung in there. In Nashville, Trevor Siemian had himself a heck of a game. considering how good the defense was playing, he went for 19 of 34, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not very consistent, but he wasn't bad. Mark Ingram, not really that efficient on the ground, but he had some big plays, especially in the pass game. He had one huge catch for them. So, yeah, it was a pretty good all-around good game offensively. I'll give them a plus. No, I never mind. I have to give them an underscore. Because they were going for 2 at the end of the game. They just couldn't get it. If they got that, they probably would have got the plus. But I can't give them a plus. I'll give them an underscore, though. They played good. Saints defense, though, dominate the line of scrimmage, pressure Tannehill. Make sure they always play 2 high safeties. They didn't play 2 high safeties the whole game, but they did get 2 sacks. They had some nice plays. I'll give their defense an underscore. They played good enough for the team to win. They just couldn't get it done because came down last, but the Saints played good enough to win. But Titans were just a little better. Like, Ryan Tannehill was okay, 19 of 27, 213 touchdown. Dante Foreman wasn't good. They couldn't run the ball at all. Marcus Johnson had some big catches. That's all I really have to say. AJ Brown had 1 catch. That's kind of sad. I don't like run the ball visually. No, they didn't really do any of that. They did score in the big moments, so they did execute in the red zone, so they were good. 4 sacks for the defense. They're really looking good. I can't give them a plus. I will give them an underscore though. They weren't perfect, but they got the job done, so I'll give them that. It wasn't like they were dominating or anything, but they won. They played good enough for their team to win. Next game, Jags, Colts. This was actually a really good game. I gotta admit it. The Jags were down. They came back. The Colts held on. Yeah, the Jags fall to 2-7. Final score is 23-17. Colts are 5-5 now. Not very confident if you're a Colts fan, but the Jags, they played good. They ran the ball. Well, Jamal Agnew had some big runs. They didn't really run the ball a ton. I know why they didn't run the ball because they were down, but I gotta admit they did stick to the run game when they had to. I'll give their offense an underscore. They weren't great, but they definitely weren't bad. Trevor, not very consistent, 16 of 35, 162 yards. Under 50% completion. That's pretty awful. Either way, defensively, they did get a sack. I'd say they were okay. They were pretty much average. They got a sack. They did pressure Wentz a lot. They did slow down the run. They didn't give up any big plays, so I'll give them that. Colts, Carson was average, 22 of 34, 180 yards. It wasn't really anything happening. Jonathan Taylor, 21 for 116 touchdown. He was pretty darn good. He probably should have got more carries. It didn't really matter, though, because Michael Pittman had a pretty good game. I'll give them an underscore. They weren't bad, but they didn't score 45. Didn't have the same electricity, but I'll give them what they should get. Their defense, they were okay. Like, both teams were pretty good. They weren't bad. They weren't great, but they weren't bad. They did have 3 sacks. Had some pressure. Did make some good plays. I'll give them an underscore. They just didn't have any turnovers and didn't do anything special. They did have some big plays, but they just didn't do it. They just didn't do what I wanted them to do. Kind of next step, but they played good. This game was the worst game of the season. Both teams were awful. Lions, it was a tie, 16-16, Lions-Steelers. This game literally looked like a preseason game. Jared Goff was terrible. Yeah, I get it was in the elements, but he was awful. DeAndre Swift, for how many carries he got, was not good. Godwin, Igabuke had 1 huge carry to tie it up. Jamar Jefferson, it was a trick play. He had a really nice touchdown. So they ran the ball really well with other guys besides DeAndre Swift. They did not score in the red zone. They were 0 for 6 again. Never mind. They were 1 for 6. Or 1 for 5. They were 1 for 5. They were terrible in the red zone though. TJ Hawkinson didn't have a catch. I can explain that. Minka was on him the whole game. Amon-Ra St. Brown finally showed up, and Khalif Raymond had a huge catch for them at the end of the game. And then they kind of stunk it up. Their offense gets a minus. I'll give them an underscore. They did run the balls. They were down at some points. They did come back. They were pretty good. Their defense got a pick. They weren't very good. It was just the fact that the Steelers' offense was really bad. But they only gave 16. I'll give them an underscore. Their offense wasn't good, but they were good enough to keep them in the game. Steelers, though, oh my gosh. Mason Rudolph, 30 of 50, 242 yards, touchdown pick. He was so average. Najee Harris was, average, too. Deontay Johnson, he was getting open. He had some big catches, but he was awful. End of the game, it was just terrible. They get a minus. You can't score 16 against the Lions. That just sucks. Get the ball. They did get the ball to Deontay Johnson. Run the ball with power. They didn't run with power. It was just some nice runs, but The defense got 4 sacks. They kept them in the game. I don't really know what else to say. They got built up by a field goal. I'll give them an underscore. Other than the Steelers' offense, I think both sides actually weren't that terrible, but the game was just terrible. It was awful. Okay, this game was pretty much just a dog hounding, like a murder scene, if you want to put it that way. The Patriots absolutely, like, annihilated the Browns. Annihilated them. Like, it was awful. Browns are now 5-5. They lose 45-7. Patriots are now 6-4. So they're pretty good. They won 4 straight. They're red hot. Baker was terrible. 11 of 21, 73 touchdown pick. Case Keenum wasn't any better. They ran the ball 19 times with Dearness Johnson for 99 yards. The run game was not the problem. They just abandoned it. And Baker was terrible. Like, he was just terrible. Yeah, he was hurt, but I don't care. Terrible. They didn't take any shots. Baker was not good. They did not run the ball enough. They get a minus. They scored 7 points. Their defense, though, that's the worst defense of the week. It's not even close. Like, literally, Mac Jones threw for 198 yards, and he didn't have to do anything else. Like, that's all I'd say. Ramondre Stevenson was a beast. Brian Hoyer had he had a big touchdown at the end of the game. Mac Jones was not amazing, but he did enough. Kendrick Bourne had a big game. Their offense gets a plus. They scored 45. The Raiders, Steelers, the Patriots defense wasn't anything special if you ask me. Yeah, they got how many sacks? 1, 2, 4. They got 5 sacks a pick. So yeah, they were pretty good. They didn't stop the run well though, so I'll still give them a plus, but they got to work on that a little. Yeah, I guess against the Browns, but still. Okay, now we're going to get into the later games. And Vikings-Chargers is the first one we're going to do. This was actually a really good game. The Vikings won 27-20. Justin Herbert's not looking so great. Or he hasn't been consistent since, He hasn't been consistent since week 5. Chargers are 5-4 after they've lost 3 out of their last 4 after starting off 4-1. The Vikings are 4-5. They've been really inconsistent this year. Kirk had a really good game though, 25-37, 294, 2 touchdowns. As much as Dalvin Cook stunk it up, he did pull through and win them the game. So I'll give them that. Their offense gets a plus. They were really good. Yeah, Kirk was consistent. They did run the ball. They did finish the game like they were supposed to, so I'll give them the plus. 27 points isn't anything to be like, yeah, but they were pretty good. Defense had 2 sacks a pick. They made some big plays, but they were, like, giving up a lot of yardage toward the end of the game, so I'll give them an underscore. They were okay. They could have been better, but I'll give them what they deserve. Chargers offense, though, like, they were just okay. They weren't anything special. They didn't win the game. Justin Herbert was not good. 20 of 34, 195 touchdown pick. Austin Eckler only got 11 carries. Keenan Allen had a pretty good game. Mike Williams still can't get any big plays going. I'll give them an underscore. They weren't terrible, but they weren't great. The defense wasn't good, but it wasn't, like, terrible. They did stop the run pretty well, or at least contain it. They had 2 sacks, didn't have a turnover. Their defense actually probably played well for them to win, but they didn't win. So, yeah, I'll go. Their Chargers played okay. The Vikings just played a little better. Now this game, Cam is back. That's all I have to say about it. And as a result, they absolutely annihilated the Cardinals. Like, I kind of expected this because, no offense to you Cardinals fans, but your team stinks it up when you don't have your players. Like any other team. Philip Walker, PJ Walker, but yeah, Philip Walker, he was in there every play except when in the red zone. Cam finished it off. He had 2 total touchdowns. He threw for 4 for 8 yards. He ran for 14. He ran for more yards than he threw for, which I didn't really care for. But he's back. That's all that matters. CMC had the best game of his season by far. He had some big catches. He looked really good. Philip Walker, 22 of 29, 167 interception. He looked pretty average. Wasn't great, but he did get them in the red zone, though. Their defense, though, was awesome. Yeah, I'll give the offense a plus because CMC was finally having his game. But the defense, though, I'll give them, they were phenomenal. Like, No screens at all. Like, they knew what the other team was relying on, and as a result, they took advantage of it. They had 4 sacks and interception. They had a lot, I'm not kidding, a lot of tackles for loss, a lot of lost yardage. Cardinals couldn't get the ball moving. So yeah, they were pretty terrible in the passing game. Like, really bad. Colt McCoy 11 of 20, 1-7 interception. Chris Trevler wasn't much better, 6 of 9, 36 yards. They didn't run the ball like really at all, and when they did run it, it didn't really work out. Christian Kirk was getting open, but that was all I have to say about him. Defensively, like, they were pretty bad. Yeah, they were really bad. They didn't give up any big passing plays, but they did get an interception on a tip pass. But they were pretty bad. I gotta give them a minus. They gave 34 points to the Panthers. Just can't do that. Okay, this is all I have to say. Devontae Smith is superior to Patrick Surtain. I think I'm right about that. The Eagles beat the Broncos by 3 scores, 30-13. Eagles go to 4-6. Broncos fall to 5-5, and they are now last in the AFC West. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I'm joking. No, it isn't really. But the offense was really good. It was cooking. Man, Jalen Hurts just doesn't throw the ball downfield. Well, he does. He just doesn't throw the ball a ton. He was 16 of 23, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. They ran the ball 3 guys. It was pretty good. Jalen Hurts just didn't have the explosiveness today, but pretty good. Devontae Smith had his best game of the season, if you ask me. He had only 4 catches, but he had 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I'll give their offense a plus. They scored 30. Their defense was pretty good too. Like, they had a sack. They just played really good football, if you ask me. Like, just watch them play, and you'll just see that was their best game. So yeah, they weren't good in the run game, but I'll give them a plus. They only gave up 13 points. The Broncos defense run the ball efficiently. Melvin Gordon, like, 9 carries. Is that all you give them? Like, literally, I know you're down, but still. Teddy Bridgewater was so average, 22 of 36, 228, just 26. Forget the stats. Like, just watch him play. He was not great at all. Like, they couldn't finish in the red zone. They get a minus. If they finished in the red zone, they'd probably win the game, but they didn't. They were really bad in the red zone, so they get a minus. Their defense, though, they weren't awful. They had a sack. They had a pick. They actually made some big plays at the end of the game. I'll give them an underscore. They just didn't play well enough for them. 30 points isn't anything good, but I wouldn't say they were absolutely terrible, so I'll give them. They were actually pretty okay. Seahawks, pretty simple. This is like pretty much his defense. 17-0 Packers. Seahawks, Russ was rusty. 20 of 40, 161, 2 picks. A lot of deep shots. 2 were picked off. No, 1 was picked off. A lot of incompletions. They weren't bad passes by any means. They were actually to the receiver, but corners were there. A lot of stuff happened. They only ran the ball 16 times. You can't do that to win a game. Their offense was terrible, though. Absolutely awful. Their defense was awesome. Their defense was, oh my gosh. That's all I have to say. They were awesome. An interception in the red zone. Jamal Adams, huge play. Bobby Wagner had the best game of his season. Jordan Brooks was getting involved. They got a sack with Rasheem Green. That's probably good for him. They were awesome. Packers offense, they were terrible. 3 of 37, 292 interception for Aaron Rodgers. He was not great. Yeah, he was throwing for yardage. It's the Seahawks. What do you expect? Devontae Adams actually was really good. But A.J. Dillon was good in the receiving game. Don't forget the pass game. Their offense was awful. Like, they were awful. I'll give them the minus. 17 points. They don't deserve it. And both of them were on a silver platter. No offense to you Packers fans. Your offense was terrible. But either way, yeah, their defense was better than the Seahawks. 3 sacks, 2 picks, a shutout. Even if you don't even have any stats and you get a shutout, you're going to get a plus. It's kind of easy to do. You get a plus. I'll give you a plus. I'll give a defense a plus if they shut out the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I'm joking. If they shut out a team in the Super Bowl. How about that? If that happens, then yeah. Okay, this game, I would say it was a little bit of a surprise. The Chiefs are number 1 in the AFC West, which is kind of crazy. They're 6-4. Raiders are 5-4. They actually got crushed, though, 41-14. Mahomes was elite. That touchdown he threw to Darrell Williams was a really dumb pass. But he threw the ball literally like that's all he threw it to, Darrell Williams. I liked what Mahomes was doing. 3-step drop, throw it was awesome. Check down, 1, 2, 3, throw it. If he keeps getting in that rhythm, he'll do the same thing he does. 406-5, touchdown, 35-35. Really good game from Mahomes, 70% completion. He had some, he wasn't perfect by any means, but he played elite. They didn't run the ball efficiently, though. That's the thing. They had some good runs. They just didn't run the ball efficiently. They did run the ball. It was pretty good. Tyreek Hill to make catches. There were no deep plays. I like what they did. If they can play offense like this is going to be a really hard offense to stop. Because if you take away that, if you try to take away that, then the deep shots are going to be back from Mahomes. That's the thing. They didn't run the ball that efficiently. They got a plus, but they scored 41. Mahomes has had best game of the season by far. The defense had, two sacks. Let's see, 2 sacks, a pick. Daniel Swords has finally made a play. I want to show you this. He is the worst starting safety in the NFL. Will his PFF grade go up because he got an interception? Oh, it did go up. Yeah, he's the worst starting defender in the NFL, if you didn't know that. He's pretty awful. Their defense, they were pretty good. Yeah, they only get 14, but they weren't actually special or anything. I don't want to give them I'll give them an underscore. They were okay, but how do you give this defense a plus? Like, they didn't actually show they were really that good. Like, Derek Carr was moving the ball. 25, 35, 261, 2 touchdowns, interception. They only ran the ball. This just shows you didn't run the ball. So, like, Derek Carr was moving the ball. Their offense was pretty bad, though. Like, it was more the fact that the Raiders' offense wasn't doing anything to more the fact that the Chiefs' defense was playing well. Brian Edwards had, like, 1 big catch. I'd say that's about it. Darren Waller was off. Pretty much it. Their defense, though, was butt cheeks. They did play 2 high safeties. Why didn't it work? Because you didn't pressure Mahomes. Well, not only that, but you gave them the sideline, too. Those sideline plays, those checkdowns, they gave them all that. As a result, you lost. They didn't give up the deep play. Why? Because they were giving up anything else, and Mahomes finally learned. Their defense just didn't tackle well either. There was a lot of big plays. You got to be able to tackle. So, yeah, the Raiders were not good. Either way, like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed. That was the Week 10 recap. All the games are in. Now let's get ready for Monday Night Football, and the recap will be tomorrow.